Night City is home to countless different cars, and they come in all shapes and sizes, from luxurious grand tourers to tiny trucks to really tiny trucks. In this series, I'm going to discuss the different makes and models that you can find swarming around Night City. After the stock market crash in 1994, there was an upheaval across the United States. The country fractured, and after a decade of bedlam, the corporate wars would begin. Following this chaos, economies slowly had to build themselves up again, and this gave foreign markets a chance to break into the US and leave their mark. One of these was a Chinese car maker, whose practical and focused designs would provide transportation for citizens across North America. The Archer Hela is an economy sedan that can be found all around Night City. It was produced from 2023 to 2038, which makes it a bit of a vintage vehicle. That, however, has no effect on its abundance. It serves as a workhorse for the everyday John Doe. Its main features are legroom, a big trunk, and a lack of headrests, making sure that if you happen to crash this car, you won't pass away from the pure shame of destroying your new old car, but rather just from a broken neck. The modeling of this car is fairly unique. It sports an indignant attitude towards styling, mixing some smooth lines with some very sharp and angular ones. It has futuristic knobs and ends, but then it also has these big plastic 80s style bumpers like that of the Saab 900. It likely draws inspiration from some of the American sedans of the 80s and 90s, like the first generation Ford Taurus or the 8th generation Lincoln Continental. Some of the shapes also remind me a little bit of the Toyota Century or the Volvo S70 if you were to adjust the height of the roof by a little bit. I really couldn't pin this car down, so I even asked my brother, who mentioned the British Rover SD1, which is an obscure reference, but I can totally see it. In summary, the Archer Hela is a really unique design, one that can't really even be contributed to any single real-world vehicle. This car only has one attainable variant in the game, and that's the protagonist V's personal vehicle. It's an EC-D i360, which seems to be the base model of the Archer Hela. V's personal variant has bolt-on fender flares, aftermarket side skirts, massive deep dish wheels, and even a lip spoiler to top it all off and just scream, "Hey, I'm a tasteless street kid." The interior also has V's iconic bobblehead, which was also in the Turbo RV tech. Besides V's personal variant, the EC-D i360 can also be found all over Night City, sometimes being used as a car by gang members. I found a couple of them in the hands of the 6th Street gang, and this one looked like it had been a taxi cab in a former life. If you really look around Night City, you can occasionally find the ECV i660 Voyage, which seems to be a higher trim level. I tried really hard to find any differences between this one and the i360, but they're pretty similar. I did note that the i660 tends to look like it's better upkept on the outside. The paint job seems a bit glossier most of the time. They both share the same 212 horsepower powertrain, and they're both front-wheel drive. The biggest difference seems to be that the 660s are better taken care of, and they also do have a slightly nicer interior. Here's a quick side-by-side, first of the 360, and then second the 660. The i360 has a simple but inoffensive all-black leather interior. At least I'm calling it leather. I don't know if they actually have real leather in Night City. In one of my last videos, people told me they don't even have real meat, so maybe it's made out of smashed up bed bugs and petroleum. The i660 Voyage seems to use better materials throughout. It has red and black multi-tone leather, and it also has plaid inserts in the seats. The steering wheel has perforated leather around the outside and moleskin leather on the center. The last variant of the Archer Hela is a really interesting one. It's an armored police car used by the Night City Police Department. It goes by the name of the ECH I-860 Enforcer. This peacekeeping behemoth has a massive front bull bar, armored windows, and additional armor plating on every single panel. Not only that, but it's also upgraded to all-wheel drive for practicality and has a much greater 374 horsepower. To top it all off, it actually only weighs 4,100 pounds, which, if you compare it to, say, a new M5, this thing's a performance and protection bargain. You can often find the Enforcer stationed or patrolling around Night City, putting the fear of the corpse back into any ne'er-do-wells. When you're driving around, you can actually hear a dispatch radio inside of the car.
1773 East 12th Street, KUA.
This beast is a cruel reminder of what it takes to keep yourself protected in a city full of living, breathing weapons. Driving this car through the city definitely gives a sense of authority, but it also gives a sense of terror that maybe a Valentino or a Tiger Claw is about to throw a grenade on your hood. But nonetheless, its adoption by the NCPD shows just how popular the Archer Hela is in Night City, and it makes it one of the most iconic sedans that you can find driving around. To me, the Archer Quartz is one of the most charming cars in Cyberpunk. It's a compact, mid-engine sports car. Unlike the Hela, the inspirations for the Quartz are obvious. The first-generation Toyota MR2, the Pontiac Fiero, the Fiat X19. These are all great comparisons that share a similar silhouette and purpose. And that purpose? To create a fun, affordable car that gives the joyous and sporty driving experience of a mid-engined, rear-wheel drive vehicle to the everyday person. The Quartz has been produced from 2041 to 2077. There's quite a few variants, so I'm going to try to move quickly. The base model is the ECL R275. It comes in gray, and I like how this is a tasteful stock version. It's clean, has slick wheels, and looks good anywhere. It has 162 horsepower, and even though it struggles a bit at highway speeds, it's a blast to drive around town. Now don't forget, the Quartz is a mid-engine car, so that means it has a hood for a boot and a boot for a hood. It has a nice two-tone interior with brown and black leather. There's also some asymmetrical features, like the coloring on the steering wheel. The seats and the door cards have this really cool hexagonal tiling or quilting, and it adds some blue tones that are really nice looking. The Quartz 275 might be cheap, it might be simple, but I think it's really underrated. The next model of the Quartz is the EC-T2 R660. Now, if V's Hela was the tasteless street kid version of that model, then this is the equivalent for the Quartz. The 660 has a missing front bumper, absurd all-terrain tires with painted sidewall lettering. It has a carbon fiber hood and doors, and if that all wasn't enough, the back end of the car is sticker bombed. And don't ask me what this thing is. I don't know. I'm not finding out, but if there's someone who really wants to figure it out and put it in the comments, then please, be a genius. I will say this definitely looks like an upgraded air intake. This car has plenty of little doodads and details if that's your kind of thing. If you're into this version, then more power to you. It's just a bit loud for me. It does have 60 horsepower more than the 275. I will say though, this black and orange interior is pretty fresh. It really evokes that postmodernist Nerf gun chic. The next version is the Archer Quartz Bandit, and it is one of the coolest cars in this game. Allow me to read from the database entry. When Archer invited racing legend Billy Bandit McCarty to revamp the Quartz, they hoped to improve on the tried and tested formula of their classic sports car. What they got far exceeded even the company engineers' wildest pipe dreams. The Bandit instantly won the hearts of Night City's drag racers, ending Quadra's dominance on the scene virtually overnight. Though not as slick and flashy as the Turbo R or the Type 66, the Bandit boasts two elements that make it a cult classic: enough horsepower to outrun any dragster and heaps of soul. When asked what he sees of himself in the model, McCarty supposedly stated that once you take the Bandit's wheel, well, you can't help but commit a traffic violation, or 3. I'm sorry, but I just smile like an idiot doing wheelies in this thing all around the city. Now before you call me a hypocrite for liking this modified version but not the 660, let me point a couple things out. This version has 364 horsepower, which is 140 extra compared to the 660. It actually needs these wide fender flares, unlike V's Hela, because, well, look at how big these rear tires are. All I'm trying to say is mods are cool when they're justified, and on this car, they're justified. Whatever kind of engine is in the Quartz, this one has a twin-turbo version. Just look at how cool that polished piping with the red cone filters is. The Bandit also has a really detailed interior, with all kinds of heads-up displays, a digital display steering wheel, performance gauges on the A-pillar, a roll cage, everything. It even has a display up on the ceiling by the engine. I don't know what this is for, but it's cool that it's there. I don't know if other people appreciate the Quartz Bandit as much as I do, but I have to say it's one of my favorite cars in the game. If you're getting tired of your Mizutani or your Quadra, then maybe give this thing a try. It's great to look at, and with its rear-wheel drive and those big wide tires, it's honestly a fun challenge to drive. The Spectre is one of two nomadic variants of the Archer Quartz. This version has all-wheel drive and it has 520 horsepower. Now this car will definitely do better off-road than the previous variants, but still, don't treat it like a truck because it's low to the ground. Take my word for it. That being said, it has a really fun rear bias that likes to kick the rear end out, and once you get used to it, you can just use the all-wheel drive system to bring it right back in. It makes for fun driving. This car is really quick, and it's still small enough to fit through all the little gaps you'll find in Night City. And when you factor in that it's weaponized, it starts to become a really practical primary car option. The polished metal is a nice finish on the exterior, and with the red accents, I think this is a really good-looking car. If you open up the trunk, then you can see the highly upgraded suspension and this no-nonsense diamond plate storage area. The interior looks a lot like the other Nomad cars in the game. It has a military-esque feel with lots of displays and buttons, and a roll cage as well. Instead of a rear windshield, once again you see this industrial diamond plate motif. All in all, I think the Spectre is a really cool version of this car, and like the other Nomad cars in the game, I think it's a practical choice for a Merc going through Night City. The last variant of the Quartz is the Sidewinder. For all intents and purposes, this car is the same as the Spectre, but it does have a few differences. Most obviously, it has a different color scheme. It also has a small light bar on the hood and certain little Militech pieces here and there. The machine guns on this car are mounted up on the front fender as opposed to on the rear one. And important to note, the Sidewinder also has a mounted missile launcher, which is pretty sick. I like how it's hidden in that big rear spoiler. Like I said, the Sidewinder really is just a lot like the Spectre. I don't have much to say other than this is a fun car and it will definitely get you around Night City. But once again, it's not a monster truck. Since the Quartz is a performance car, I will do an exhaust comparison. I'll start with the 275, then go to the 660, then the Bandit, then the Spectre, and the Sidewinder. The same order as they appeared in the video. before I close, please, if you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing if you want to see more. And please leave a comment if you have constructive feedback or any interesting thoughts after watching. Archer is a company that in some ways represents the collapse of the United States. They represent foreign companies coming to North America and taking over the economy. But they also represent durability and staying power. This might be unexpected since when you think made in China, that's not necessarily your first reaction. But in Cyberpunk, that is certainly the reality. From 50-year-old Helas still carting people to work, to modified Quartz eating up miles in the Badlands. These facts culminate in one simple truth. Archer is the brand that gave China a foothold in Night City.